Hello and welcome to the agenda on Politics Social. I am Graham Hughes and I'm joined, as always, by Phil Moorhouse of A Different Bias. How's it going, Phil? You all right?
All right. Yes.
Yeah. So just before we start off, I just want to say a big round hello and welcome to Gallifreyan Men and Lost Missionary and Chris C. and someone called Graham Politics, whoever that is. And Diz is in there as well. Unquiet Badger, Ed is in there, and Vendetta and others. If you'd like to join our friends in the chat, all you need to do is hit the super chat button. All you need to do is hit the super chat button. No, all you need to do is hit the subscribe button and wait for a minute and you'll be able to join in with the conversation. So today we're going to be talking a little bit to start with about David Lammy. He's under fire after being asked the same question 6 times in Prime Minister's Questions, which is really cringe. So the prison system in England and Wales seems to be experiencing a record-breaking level of administrative chaos.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what they needed to say was, look, the Conservatives built they built, I think it was something like literally 400 new prison places in 14 years. And yet, not only did the general population increase, so even if you had basically the same rate of, custodial sentences, that wouldn't be enough. But also, the Conservatives, like a lot of governments in this country, because the public sort of expect it, kept increasing sentences.
Yeah.
So you put in people, so you don't actually create new prisons, but the population increases and you send more people to prison for longer. And Labour should just put it like that. They should actually ridicule anyone for saying, well, what's going on? Well, that's what's going on.
Well, David Lammy tried to do that in PMQs. He did mention the fact that the situation was much worse under the Conservatives.
I mean, I would say both he and Cartledge messed up there. Cartledge messed up because, right, so
that
he had
was
his
the
first
Tory who was standing in for Kemi Badenoch today. Wednesday.
He asked, first of all, Lammy to apologise for the original one, the sex offender, right? And Lammy says, well, I already had apologised, 2 MPs in the House. Shame you weren't there. And then he asked the same question again, to which Lammy just went, I've just said I did. So then there were 4 questions that were the same. Now, it is fair enough that you ask multiple questions if you want to catch the government out. So he asked Lammy, have there been any others? To which Lammy sort of talks about how shit the system was under the Tories. Then he says again, right, okay, have there been any others is what I'm actually asking. Now, at that point, they can already publish that Lammy's been evasive because he's been asked a yes or no question and he answered yes or no, right? So at that point, they've already got Lammy. So Lammy probably should have come straight out and answered it, in all honesty. Even though, he didn't seem to know much about it because he had only really just been informed, but he had been informed. But he asked 2 more times. And then, as a point of order at the end of the thing, said, oh, I read this thing in the Telegraph that someone has been released. It wasn't an asylum seeker, by the way.
Something that came out at 12:30. That article was published at 12:30. So they must have known. The Tories
they must have tipped him off. Okay,
they must have tipped him off. And so he's asking this question. And if he denies it, then you've got this gotcha. And then he asked a point of order at the end to say, I've just read it in the Telegraph. Sure. But the fact that it came out at 12:30 on the knocker shows it was embargoed.
But nonetheless, they already had their gotcha when he didn't answer it twice. He didn't do it 4 times. So it's like, and then they'd have had, literally everything that was published after that point could still have been the same because he'd twice not answered. And Lammy probably should have straight away, because he did say to defend his decision, he said, I had the statement ready there just in case I was asked specifically about that thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to preempt the police statement. But I would actually say a government statement, actually, if anyone's going to gazump a police statement, it can be the government.
Yeah.
Especially when you're being asked about it in Parliament.
Yeah.
So, so it's bad from both of them, but Cartledge really properly let him off the hook because you'd think to yourself, well, the headlines ended up being really damaging. So, well, they could have published all that anyway when he just didn't answer straight away. But they could have had him, Cartledge, after the first 2, for his 5th question, he could have said, right, okay, Minister, I've asked you twice and you're not answering. I have heard that someone was accidentally released, blah, 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 blah. Can you just give me a straight yes or no? Is my source misinformed or not.
Yeah.
And that would have then put a lot of pressure on Lammy, because then it would really look bad if he still wouldn't say anything when he's now asked about a specific situation.
Yeah.
And if he had said, "Oh yeah, that one," it's like, "Oh, you just forgotten? Did you just forget? Did it slip your mind?" And how many have been released accidentally?
Well, I was doing a commentary at the time, and I was like, I can't believe he's asked the same thing 6 times. And then he lost how many. He lost count of how many times he'd asked questions, and he challenged Lindsay Hoyle and said, "Oh God, no, the question." And Lindsay was like, "No, you don't." He asked the clerks, and they're like, "No, he didn't."
Yeah.
But like the issue here with Lammy is that his timeline doesn't quite add up with the latest mistaken release, and prison officers are challenging what he said. So the issue was that I think the new checks were announced and were supposed to be effective immediately on the 27th of October. And this fellow was released on the 29th of October. So that's 2 days after the new checks came into force. And you would think after such a high profile release that the people in charge of these services would be on high alert to make sure they didn't accidentally release anyone.
Neither you nor I, well, certainly I don't. We don't really know what that system is. You can talk about this check, but what is this extra check? Can you be a bit more bloody careful, please? I mean, like, you can't. So, like, what is the system for checking?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's obviously not a very good one, because basically the situation here is ultimately human error, but the government don't just want to then blame the prison service or anyone like that, because in reality, like, there's human error, and there's human error where someone actually just doesn't do their job properly, and there's human error because they're dealing with a shit system where it's going to happen.
From Wandsworth, weren't they? They were both from Wandsworth prison, which is apparently like one of the worst in the country, just for everything. It comes to the bottom on a lot of metrics. But it was Billy Smith was the guy who was released who was a fraudster, who came back voluntarily. But this Cherif guy, he's an Algerian national. He's a fucking sex offender, and apparently he was released from Wandsworth, right? And it was 6 days before anyone informed the police.
Yeah, that's what I thought was really mad.
What?
Which also implies 6 days maybe before they even bothered to inform the government.
Yeah.
Had they even informed the government?
If they told the government, but the police weren't informed, that would be a huge scandal.
Yeah.
Especially when it's a sex offender.
So basically, Lammy himself wasn't informed.
This is crazy. So is Wandsworth run by the prison service, or is it run by Serco or something?
I don't think any of the prisons as such are run by them, but sometimes prison transfers are. But I mean, that's another problem, isn't it? When you have a mixture of like private and public things, then that's another issue.
Goose Springsteen, what a great name. Goose, I love you. Thank you for your £10. Says, not sure if you're going to mention it, but the big issue is Lammy refused to appear before the speaker to clarify the question afterwards, as it would be career suicide.
Yeah, I saw that.
Who said it would be career suicide? Did Lammy say that?
I think someone in Labour had. So maybe someone close to Lammy. I don't think he said it on camera. But I think there was a report that someone had around Lammy had said that.
Chris C says, speaking as an ex-prisoner, on release day, you have your identified verified by photo, prison number, and fingerprint. And it's a public prison, says Chris. So, yeah. And Chris wants to know, how is Starmer's Labour so bad at this?
Well, exactly, because they honestly, the communication is literally, it's their real Achilles heel, but it's really a bad one to have.
It's not an Achilles heel, mate. It's fucking septic.
Well,
it's a septic fucking heel. It's going to kill them. It's going to kill them. They're infected. This is it. They're going to get sepsis. Chris C, thank you very much. Wandsworth prison is a public-run prison. Yeah, thanks for the super chat, Chris, and the clarification there. This is absolutely appalling, and the problem is that Lammy made a public statement, and he said that the mistaken release of Cherif happened before he introduced the new checks, but the new checks came in first, so that's not great, is it?
But had they? I mean, is it one of these things where the new guidance was was passed around but hadn't been adopted yet, or not been
Well,
adopted by that prison or something.
somebody close to Lammy, an anonymous source, has said that Cherif's release occurred at the end. The errors that led to the release occurred at the end of September. So, but then the release itself
in other words,
occurred after the safeguards were supposed to be in place.
So are they saying he was already on? So so someone's saying ex-prisoner and so on, you've got all those checks. So basically what they're suggesting then is it that he was already on the list for release. So it wasn't an error at the point of release. It was an error earlier being put on the list.
Yeah, I guess
well,
so.
in which case that's reasonable. If that's the case.
We don't really know.
No.
We don't really know.
No.
I mean, this, after another national from another country, an Ethiopian national was released. That was Kabatu. And he was released from Chelmsford prison last month. And, after that, I don't know, you just wouldn't, if it was you, Phil, wouldn't you be like double checking? Wouldn't you be like triple checking everything and making sure, making phone calls, going, are we sure we're good to release this fella? Thank you very much.
No, not necessarily, because again, they're overworked, aren't they? There's not enough staff in the system.
Overworked and underpaid. Questionable absentee. Thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Public and private and public services side by side means that rich people don't care about the public. Removing a private option makes them care. Yeah, agreed. Or taxing the private option to the hilt. SG, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. The error in one of the cases was recording the sentence as suspended, which resulted in the release. With archaic systems and woeful staffing, how can something like this be countered?
Again, quickly you can't. You've got if the system is wrong, you need a new system.
Yeah.
And you can't do that overnight. But the communication to the public has to be better. And if you've already been caught out being evasive, then people aren't necessarily inclined. They just think you're like a naughty child caught out in one lie, so you come up with another.
Yeah.
It'd have been better if it had just come out and said, let me explain to you how your party fucked this up.
Well, Deborah L, 7875, thank you very much for the $5 Why didn't Starmer just fire him immediately? Insane to defend this. What the fuck is he thinking?
Fire who?
Fire Lammy.
Why?
Because he fucked up.
He didn't.
I mean, this was his chance to be the first black person to, stand up for...
for the Prime Minister.
For the Prime Minister.
Not at... Someone did try and say at him, because that wasn't true. That was Diane Abbott. And obviously Kemi Badenoch's been doing it, but for the government, No, I mean, that's also irrelevant anyway. That's pointless. The Lammy's not... Lammy has... It's not just that he's inherited a bad system from the Tories. He's only just been made the Justice Secretary. He was in a job doing perfectly well as Foreign Secretary and he got moved. And he's been asked to take over if you think about, if one of those errors actually goes back to September, that was only when he'd only just been made Justice Secretary. I don't think his first day as Justice Secretary was going in and going, right, I've got a bit of a premonition that a shitload of people might get released accidentally. Let's sort that out, shall we? His first job will have been going around, tell me about the fucking prison service.
Yeah.
I know he's a lawyer, so it's not like he's got no experience with it, but he's only just picked up the job of Justice Secretary. The system has been hollowed out under the Tories.
This is true.
And I really don't see, and if there was a political error on Lammy's part in not just coming straight out and saying, let me explain what went on, it's partly possibly for two things. First of all, even when you're deputising for Starmer, there's still a team you're still having to make sure you're sticking to the agreed lines. So there will still be discussion with probably the same advisors that Starmer discusses things with ahead of PMQs. So he might have actually sort of been told to try and keep it quiet if he can. And the second thing is, he himself may not have known very much about it at the time. And I know it looks bad because the government were deemed to have known, but if he hasn't been told, this person got released a week earlier, but the prison didn't bother to tell anyone. And at the same time, if you don't want to look like you're just blaming public officials, then what are you to do? But like you say, there's a lot of things we don't really know behind the scenes, but I really don't see how it's Lammy's. I mean, Labour themselves, you could say collectively might have messed it up. Well, but I don't really see how it's necessarily Lammy's fault.
Lammy's acknowledged that the prison system still runs on paper-based systems, vulnerable to human error, misfiled paperwork, incorrect date calculations, manual transfer. I can't believe it's 2025.
Yeah, but
and we're still running stuff like this.
Because we've been running things on the cheap, constantly trying to run things on the cheap.
But how can they not be using computers by now? I mean,
Because it costs money.
It
costs money to build a system. It costs billions to build a new computer system.
It just seems absolutely insane.
We had 14 years of austerity, 14 years of just penny pinching. There was no honestly, I can't say it enough. There was no investment from the Conservatives at any point in that 14 years. There was nothing they put money into to make a system better. It was all sticking plasters. All the money they put into it, every penny was just trying to keep things chugging along.
Yeah.
That was it. They didn't, someone tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think they put any money into anything. Like HS2, the reason why they didn't want HS2, the reason why Cameron kept HS2 is because he reportedly had said to people, we need something to show we're investing in the future. That was their token investment because they knew they had nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah. So, this matters. This obviously matters because, you know, the big picture, this is the justice system. Also, it's competence of the government. Lammy's credibility is on the line here. And I think
what
also,
I would say is,
what do you think that, because obviously you get briefed before Prime Minister's questions, they come up with things that might come up in Prime Minister's questions. Did they not think this might come up? Because the government must have known about this the day before.
No, they knew. Like Lammy said, he had a statement ready to give if he had to. So he's basically saying, look, his argument was he didn't want to preempt the police statement. I would say that's a weak argument, but for whatever reason, the reason is almost certainly political. So for whatever reason, so he had openly said he had this statement ready to go, but we also know he hadn't been told much about it himself. The thing I would say is I actually, like, it is obviously serious, but I don't think, like, if I look now, right, if I look on the BBC front page news, there's nothing on it there. It's one of these things, like, it's serious now. If they do massively improve it for the next election, if it's not an issue at the next election, it's not going to be an issue. It's not one of these things, it's a flash in the pan thing, right? I actually don't think, it's not even on the front page news right now on the BBC. It's not there. If I put on politics, maybe it'll be in there. Not a lot, actually. So if you even look on their politics section, there's like Lucy Powell, who's actually doing what I was afraid she would do. Lisa Nandy's in hot water.
Sorry, what's Lucy Powell doing?
She's saying Labour should stick to the manifesto pledge. So she's basically undermining her own fucking government now.
But I mean, they should stick to the manifesto pledge.
Yeah, but given that they're not going to,
come on.
Given that you can say that, but given that they're not going to, MPs should actually be turning this in the government's favour. Really, that's the job of an MP. Sorry, if you don't want to stand as a Labour MP, don't stand as a Labour MP. Then you've got Lisa Nandy in a bit of hot water. Ed Davey wanting to work with the government on electoral reform. Government recovers money from asylum hotel firms, 74 million. Betting firms scaremongering over tax rises. PM angry and frustrated at mistaken prison releases. So it's on there on the politics bit. They're not making a big meal out of it. The Tory press will be, but no one else is really making a big meal out of it.
Chris C is just putting they use a computer system called Nomis. The problem is the probation service and the prison service, only the prison service and the probation service have access to it. It isn't linked to the courts.
And the courts have a different thing.
Bit of paper saying suspended for a sentence, it's suspended, so you get to go. You can see how mistakes are easy to make. But something else we should dive into is how many mistakes were made when the Tories were in power. Loads of people were released erroneously from jail during the Tory reign of terror. And even worse than that, in some respects, they lost track of hundreds of refugee children who were supposed to be staying in hotels down in the south. They lost, and you know where they lost them to? They lost them to sex trafficking rings. That's who they lost them to. These kids to be abused, and it's like hardly anything.
No, she was asked one time in like a select committee hearing.
Yeah, absolutely fucking crazy. But this is the culmination of a lot of big fuck ups. But I don't think Labour's completely innocent in this by any stretch of the imagination, just because they're so shit at dealing with stuff. Do they not
Well,
realise stuff's going to come up?
Exactly. They're bad at, what would you call it? Crisis management.
Yeah. Comms, crisis management. I don't know, getting people on side. It's painful watching from a distance, Phil. It really is. Anyway, so Reform's had a week.
Yeah.
They're putting up council tax by 5% everywhere.
Well, there was one Reform council wanted to put it up by 10%, which they'd have had to get special permission by the government. I'd have been a bit cheeky if I was Labour. I'd have gone, go on then. I might have let them,
Yeah.
Give them enough rope and all that. Because it's the council who choose. Like, the government don't tell councils they've got to put up. And I know they can pressure them by not giving them enough in the central grants, but, well, maybe Labour should have just gone, go on then.
We've got breaking news from Hughes, who says that the Algerian sex offender has been arrested, the one who's been released. He has just been rearrested. And
just seen that flash up on the BBC.
Yeah. And the Met have made a statement. I mean,
I wonder if the Met made the statement, if only we'd been told a week earlier. Because the police weren't notified for like 6 days.
Yes.
So that's
they put that in the statement.
Can easily say.
They put it in the statement, Phil. They put Cherif was released in error from HMP Wandsworth on Wednesday, the 29th of October. The Met was informed on the afternoon of Tuesday, the 4th of November, and a manhunt was launched. So the Met, and therefore David Lammy would have been informed on Tuesday.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, just and he would be a foreign national, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he's not an asylum seeker, but he's not British.
He's overstayed his visa though, so he is literally an illegal immigrant.
All right.
Because he's overstayed his visa.
Well, then that's easy. They'll just deport him. No problem.
He definitely should. He's understood to have entered the UK legally on a visa visit in 2019, but overstayed his visa with a probable overstayer case created in 2020. Which is how most people get here illegally.
That's even better.
They come legally and they overstay their visas.
That's even better. So Labour can say this person, was actually staying illegally in this country under the Tories for several years. We're the ones who were going to get rid of him.
Yeah.
So they could turn it back like that. They could turn it back. But something like this isn't going to be a major. There's plenty of things that are going to be a major issue at the next election. This isn't going to be one of them unless it's still happening.
Yeah.
This is going to be one of those things that's spicy at the moment. It's not even that, looking at it, it's not even that spicy. The Tory press are making a meal. They'll make a meal of anything apart from Nigel Farage's house, for which there's more news on that, which the media aren't bothering to chase.
No, definitely not. I mean, the stuff that's been going down. Me and Ollie did a whole show yesterday just about going through some of the scandals that the refuck have been up to, and it's just
did they kick out another member while you were live?
Yes, I think so. It was absolutely insane. So one thing I want to talk to you about, because I don't think the polysockers tonight on the social will be too interested to talk about this. I want to talk about the fact that Elon Musk doesn't understand Tolkien.
Yeah, I've done a video on it.
I know. But he obviously hasn't read the fucking book.
He hasn't read it.
He hasn't read it. He's watched the movies and gone, oh, it ends there. It doesn't end there in the book. They go back to the Shire, and it's been fucked up by some twat called Starkey, who turns out to be Saruman. And the Hobbits rise up against him, not the hard men of Gondor. So Elon Musk put out a tweet, and it was like if they got AI to do a tweet that sounded like something that Elon Musk would write.
No, AI would never come up with that, because AI has read Lord of the Rings. So AI wouldn't actually be that stupid.
It basically defending Tommy Robinson and calling him a hard man of Gondor, and he was necessary to protect the Shire, because otherwise the hobbits couldn't lead their nice life.
And in reality, the people that were sort of protecting the Breelanders, which was the men as well as the hobbits, were the Rangers. And the reason why Saruman was able to mug the Shire was because the Rangers all left, which wasn't in the films either, to support Aragorn and his trek towards Mordor.
Yeah. Sfax says, spoilers, Graham. I'm sorry.
From this book that came out decades ago.
Fucking about the 1950s. Come on, get with the program. So, yeah, someone spoiled the end of Easy Rider for me years and years ago, and I've never forgiven them. Also, my mate who spoiled the beginning of the original Mission Impossible movie from the mid-90s by telling me what happened to everyone at the beginning of the movie. If you've seen it, you know what happens, but I didn't. And he went, they all X, and not great. I also want to talk about the budget coming up, and this is funny because no one wants to talk about the budget, but everyone wants to talk about the budget. And every time it's brought up in Parliament, they go, "We're not talking about the budget," but they keep releasing stuff. They
do and they don't.
And Rachel Reeves did a press conference this week.
Yeah,
was it actually in the room that the Tories built, that Boris Johnson built for press conference?
I didn't actually watch. I only read transcripts. I don't usually watch speeches.
But they're all like pontificating about what's going to be in the budget. And it seems like a really weird game of cat and mouse. So they do this. They just release like things they might do and see what the reaction is. And if it's too much, they dial back on it or what?
Well, the thing is, I'm hoping. There's been quite a lot in the Guardian. Guardian have had quite a lot of exclusives, leaks from the Treasury, but they've published it as what it is. Whereas the Telegraph on the paper mile thing for EVs have published it like this is definitely going to happen. So I'm kind of hoping, I mean, it sort of needs to happen at some point. I'm kind of hoping that Labour are pranking them on it. I'm actually hoping that they've told the Telegraph, oh yeah, this is actually definitely doing this, right? You can publish it, yeah, no problem, just, and then they're not going to do it. And then they go, wankers.
For what? I mean,
Well, because then the next time the Telegraph try to report on like last time, like the paper mail. Because they're not reporting it as the Treasury are thinking about it. Like the Guardian, when they've published their things, they've done it as like the Treasury considering it, not definite. In reality, I think the only definite things we do know are there is going to be, although there's a bit of there is going to be extra taxes on at least online gambling. That seems to have been set in stone quite early on. And there's going to be something done with the 2-child cap on universal credit to ease it back. Anything else is even though they've laid the groundwork for this thing with income tax, and we think it's going to be income tax goes up by 2%, national insurance goes down by 2%.
Yeah.
Even that is still speculation. It might actually be that they prank it everyone. They come out and go, actually, we've stuck to our manifesto still. But that would be weird.
Okay, well, we had big elections in America this week, and we had a clean sweep by the Democrats. Everything the Democrats tried to do, they
pretty
won.
much, yeah.
And they had some massive swings. Like the woman who won Virginia, I think she had like a 15-point bloody lead. It was insane. And obviously, Mandami won in New York. Now, some people are saying that Mandami's win in New York shows that kind of politics, going for free buses and regulated rent, something that Labour have done but not told anyone, and going for grocery stores that are set up by the state so people can get cheap groceries. These are socialist policies, and I'm like, they're fucking centralist policies over here, mate. I mean,
they're more normal in Europe.
Yeah, more normal.
But they are still socialist policies.
Yeah. But I mean, people say, okay, well, we have stuff to learn. I really do think that we do over here, especially Labour, have stuff to learn from Mandami. But one of the interesting is that the two women who won the governorships of New Jersey and Virginia were both mad centralists. Neither of them were on the left of the party by any stretch of the imagination. So and it shows
there's Go on, sorry. There's two things to point out. The first is, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said the same thing here that I'm going to say, in that it's not just one thing, right? It's not homogenous. It's not if you win an election on these things in this part of America that it will work across America. It's like, no. But the other thing is what's actually in common with those two governors and that mayor, right, is what they fought their campaign on was the cost of living. So the individual policies are not as important as addressing people's cost of living issues. And those cost of living issues can be different in different parts of any country, but certainly in America.
Yeah,
that's the issue. And the Republicans know that. Even J.D. Vance has acknowledged that they did badly because of cost of living issues.
Yeah, and also because they were relentlessly pushing social, what's it called? Culture wars, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So they're going on and on about Madami being a Muslim, being a socialist. He's going to let trans people run amok. And it's like, okay, but people were really concerned about their day-to-day living expenses, and that's what he won on. That's absolutely what he won on. He said, I'm gonna help you get to work. I'm gonna help you buy your food. I'm gonna help you make sure your landlord doesn't put your rent up by 200% tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that really challenged me on this. Labour, oh my God, if they aren't learning lessons from this, I don't know.
That's a lesson they have already learned. They've already said that. They've been explicit that they get. First of all, so we already knew, it was widely reported, we had a lot of, between 2022 and 2024, there were a lot of elections all around the world. And it was noticeable incumbents either mostly fell completely or were cut back. And it was pointed out that this was because of cost of living issues across the world, because of that big old spike in inflation that followed COVID. In Europe, we also had it with the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. That had global echoes, but that particularly hit Europe. And then in Britain, on top of that, we also had Brexit. So our inflation spike was higher than anyone's, but of the major economies anyway. But nonetheless, it was that inflation spike. And because I mean, I suppose what you would say is, in quite a lot of countries around the world, governments had been sort of managing the cost of living to being just about what will let them get re-elected, and then all of a sudden that big old inflation spike, shifted it the other way. So the frog suddenly realised its arse was on fire, and so this has happened across the world. But the real issue is here, because like, what is the cost of living? It can be different things to different people. To me, the cost of living means your disposable income, right? Because that's what matters. It doesn't matter to me if my costs go up by £100 a month. If my income goes up by £200 a month, right, I'm still better off. So for me, it's disposable income, but not for the people. What you notice is what people focus on is the actual just cost part of it, just the cost part of it. So even if their income is going up by more than level inflation, I actually said in my stream earlier on today, a government would actually do better to freeze everyone's incomes where it is, not let them go up.
Yeah.
But to use the money to lower their costs. Like literally a government would do, like, let's say you could have a choice between a government that will raise your income by £200 a month, but your costs go up by £100 a month, or a government that freezes your income where it is, but lowers your costs by £50 a month. So the first case is better because you're £100 a month better off. You're only £50 a month better off with the other one. But the second one will work better because people are not focusing on the income side of it, only the outgoing side of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Labour recognise that. They've said that.
Rachel
Reeves even said it in the last couple of weeks. She says, it's nothing to do with GDP. It's nothing to do with anything like that. People want to see these costs go down.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got some breaking news from Chris C. A woman who claimed to be Madeleine McCann has been found guilty of harassing the family. She's been sentenced to 6 months in jail, but she's already served that in custody, so she'll be letting gone free. But there is going to be a restraining order put on her, and she seems to be a bit of a nutter. But 2 bits of breaking news while we were on air there. We had a message from Ivan, who's been a member for 1 month. Thank you, Ivan, for being a member for 1 month. Who says budget speculation is completely out of hand. And there's a really good point made by Chris, who says the problem with all this fear-mongering about the budget by the media is it's hitting consumer confidence. It also hits the markets as well. You don't forget, when Rachel Reeves had a bit of a tear earlier this year in Prime Minister's Questions, the markets went fucking crazy because they were like, he's getting rid of her. He's getting rid of her.
Exactly, that's a good enough reason for her not to go. That's why the Tories are desperate for her to go, because she's actually got the confidence of the markets, which are, it doesn't matter what you think about. Yeah, the fact that we're beholden to private investment, we are. If Labour cannot afford a Liz Truss moment, and that's also why I've been saying, it's getting out of hand with all this speculation. But the Treasury are playing into that. That's why, because it's really high stakes. It's like they cannot afford a Liz Truss. That's it. They're sunk. If they have a Liz Truss wobble, they're sunk. They're completely gone. If the pound crashes, that's it. It's game over. Whereas so they're constantly trying these things out, see what they can get. But they also know they're prioritizing keeping gilt investors happy. They know they absolutely have to do that.
Yeah.
To the point where they prioritize that over even manifesto promises. But they also know and the reason for that is if they do have another Liz Truss, that's it. The voters will. It's not because of the gilt investors as such. It's because of the voters. The voters will say, "Well, that's it. You're useless." And but they also still need to do that whilst also retaining confidence of the public. And every option is a bad option. They're obviously seeing every option as a bad option.
Yeah.
So that's why they're leaking so much stuff, so that they can have a better idea of how it would play, because they probably know they're going to win.
Do you think they're going to put stuff on income tax?
I think it's very likely. I think they're going to increase income tax and reduce employees' national insurance by the same amount. That way, they will still get to say they haven't raised taxes on those working people. My worry is, he's raising tax on pensioners, and we know how pensioners are.
Well, the pensioners aren't going to vote for them anyway. Thing.
Huh?
They're not going to vote for them anyway.
Well, then that's fine then. It doesn't matter then, does it? And actually, it's better because national insurance is a shit tax. So even if you can just slowly bake it into income tax. And there's economists on the left and right. I mean, national insurance, it's regressive. So people on the left don't like it because it's regressive. And people on the right don't like it because it's just shit. It is actually just shit because you are punishing people for working. Because even right-wing economists want to like encourage people to be more productive, and national insurance works against that.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm just checking what the capital gains tax is at the moment in the UK. Come on,
that may go up again as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking it will. So for an other asset, not a residential property. Actually, it's the same for residential property and for other assets.
There's sometimes different rules.
Rate for basic income taxpayers is 18%. Rate for higher additional rate income taxpayers is 24%. That is still way below.
The basic one is a bit below. It's the higher one that's way below effectively because
they're supposed to be paying 40% on their income, aren't they? On their
the middle rate of tax is 40%.
Labour income, and what do they call it when you have like income just coming in? Passive income.
Passive income.
This is passive income.
Yeah.
And this is money people make while they're asleep.
Exactly.
And it's getting taxed at 24% max.
Yeah, I know.
That is just
I would
insane.
Normalise it. I'd normalise it at least with the middle rate. I would do. Yeah.
Goose Springsteen, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. Isn't the issue with Labour hitting the Tories hard that it helps Refuck look like the better option on the right? A stronger Tory party is arguably better for Labour as they are an easier opponent. Really good point, Goose. But I think they are. I think they're going, from what I've seen in Prime Minister's questions and other questions in the House, they're going after reform a lot more than they're going after the Tories at the moment by my estimation.
Exactly. The Tories are nothing for them. What the Conservatives should be doing, they should recognise they're trying to be a reform mini-me. It's not going to work. What they should do instead is just focus on where they have a natural advantage, which is the economy. And I know that might sound surprising given what they did to the economy, but it is the one that the public think the public can easily be made to think that just had a few clowns in charge at the time, and the Conservatives by and large are good with the economy. It's like, oh, well, Thatcher was good. She gave you 2 recessions. She destroyed the north of England. Anyway.
But she let me buy my council house, and now I'm a Tory for life.
Yeah. But that's what they think. The public think that. So that's what they should lean into. And that's also a weakness for Reform UK. So the Conservatives shouldn't be joining into the culture wars because there's no point. They're not going to win them. Yeah. And the only thing they can win on against Labour and the Reform UK is the economy. The Reform UK are not going to win on the economy. They're clowns. Yeah. Labour might in terms of their delivery on it, but the Conservatives can just claim to be even better because they just do their usual thing. Claim to do all the same stuff, but more efficiently. Yeah. Just say, this is all fine, but it could be done cheaper. We'll do it cheaper. We'll do the same thing and give you lower taxes.
What I would do if I was them, especially with the capital gains situation, is if it's on a residential property and it is your sole residential property, you don't have like a portfolio or something, that should probably stay where it is because that does affect normal people, especially if they're looking to downsize as a pensioner. And they did something about stamp duty at the same time. This sort of thing can be very popular, know
I
it's
mean,
gonna
they
be popular on the left,
might.
but it could be getting rid of stamp duty would be popular on the right.
Yes, that's what I mean. Well, so Rachel, there was again one of the myriad of things that came out of the Treasury leaks over the summer was a proposal to get rid of stamp duty and replace it with something on selling rather than buying houses.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So a sale of a house.
yeah. Ivan, thank you very much for the £10 super chat, my friend. For the purposes of brain protection, I'm not listening to any more speculation on the 26 Reeves will waive the most famous case and deliver the budget to the Commons. I want facts, not speculation. But Labour are leaning into the speculation. They're
testing it out.
They're testing stuff out. So I do think it's worth talking about. I'm not going to say she's definitely going to do this. She's definitely going to. But going through options that are available to windfall taxes on the filthy fuel companies, and obviously changing the rules when it comes to there was an idea floated about charging people 20% of all their assets if they leave the country. Exit tax.
Yeah, and that's quite a new one. So that suggests that they're really thinking about that one as well. That's another one that got leaked out.
Are you leaving? Are you going? Cool.
Because everyone else does an exit tax.
Yeah, they do.
Well, apart from Italy. Italy's like the only other major economy that doesn't. All the others do. America does.
Well, America, you never leave. If you're American, you still have to file your tax returns wherever you are in the world for the rest of your life. The reason why Boris Johnson stopped his American citizenship because he was eligible for an American passport because he was born in America. The reason why he stopped it was because he was fed up of having to bloody.
I don't know. I think it was more political.
I
think it was more. Yeah, I think it's more political, but it is nonetheless the case. Yes, absolutely. That if you're considered American,
it's the guy who had all the parties. His Chancellor Exchequer's wife lived in Downing Street, and she was a non-domicile.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the IRS chase you around the world. In this country, it's like, oh, you weren't here? Oh, don't worry about it then. But also, something I wanted to pick up on from what Ollie and I were talking about yesterday. Something that this isn't necessarily anything to do with the budget, but something that Labour really, really need to be looking at is campaign political financing, because we don't know how much money is coming in to refuck from cryptocurrencies.
No.
Like, we need to.
I honestly don't understand why Labour are reluctant on that one, because they were asked a few months ago, I remember, in Parliament. And they dodged a question specifically on crypto. They dodged it completely. And I don't know why. No one's in favour of crypto apart from Reform UK.
Yeah.
So I don't really understand why they just say, you can't track this, so you can't accept donations in crypto. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Unless they're planning on doing it, unless the reason they're not talking about it is because they're going to do it. But when they do, they're going to, for some reason, although I know this is, I can't think of any good reason, but for some reason they want to, when they announce it, do it like pretty quickly and not give a load of people warning. So I don't know.
With the capital gain tax, you are actually exempt from it for your main home as long as it meets the conditions for private residence relief. Also, gifts from your spouse, civil partner, or charity, or to a charity. Assets held within ISAs or PEPs, and you've got government gilts and premium bonds. But also, and this is really cool, in this country, if you win the lottery, if you win £57 million on Euro Millions,
going to moan about Euro Island, aren't you?
You don't have to pay any tax, right? If you're American, you've got to pay 40% on that shit, or whatever the capital gains is at the moment. But yeah, you've got to pay tax on that winning. So do you remember when Oprah Winfrey went mad and gave everyone a car?
Yeah.
And she was like, you get a car, you get a car.
Yeah.
Half the people in the audience ended up having to sell the car to pay for the tax that they had on the cars because they didn't pay the tax. Yeah. And it's seen as
obviously wasn't classed as a gift then, was it? Even though it wasn't really a competition winning.
In America, it's like you can get one gift worth up to £10,000 off your spouse or something like that, and then it's taxed. Yeah. And this is one of the mad things. Like, America goes on so much about how we're so taxed over here in the UK and how expensive the NHS is. And actually, you go to America, the food's more expensive in the shops.
It is now, yeah.
You got government sales tax on everything. So they don't have the right amount of what something is. You pick up a Mars bar and it says $1, and you go to, and they're like, it's $1.20. And you're like, but it says $1 on the ticket. And they're like, yeah, but government sales tax, so what are you going to do? Yeah. and they're taxed all around the world. They're taxed if they win. And Yeah, when I was on the game show for my island, which I eventually won, some of the Americans went and asked about winning because they knew they'd have to pay tax on whatever they won. And they just didn't have the money. So, they'd have to sell the asset immediately and then give half the money to the taxman.
I'm actually just looking here because Dan Needle posted something recently, because again, all of them was talking about tax and tax burdens, and he was saying our actual tax rate is fairly middling. In fact, if you look at the bar chart he put on, it's at the lower end in terms of our tax rate. But just interestingly, in terms of the breakdown, the United States pays proportionally more income tax than we do.
Yeah.
So we pay quite a low rate of income tax.
Yeah. I mean, we're quite a low tax country comparatively. I know people can go over to Dubai and go, oh, we don't pay tax over here because they've got so much oil, it's silly.
Yeah, they're just selling the oil. That's how they move money around their economy. If we had no tax, like the UAE government spends less than £50 billion a year.
Wow.
For context, our government spends about 1.1 trillion.
Yeah.
So in the UAE, the government spends fuck all. So although you may not pay much tax, you are paying for everything. Everything you get, healthcare, education, everything is paid. You are paying for it.
Yeah.
And that's the point I would make. When people talk about tax burden, what really matters to people, and politicians or sensible politicians should move on to this, people don't care about the amount of tax they pay. What they care about is their total costs. So and this is what I put to Dan Needle on his thing, but like if you imagine so when you do, this is what I have an issue with international comparisons, because it doesn't matter what your tax rate is. What matters is the amount of money you have to spend on things you need.
Yeah.
So you might have a country where one country pays a lower tax rate, but the other country has nationalized utilities where your bills for those things are much cheaper. Yeah. So your overall cost could be lower.
Yeah. But go on. The UAE is such a fascinating example because it's almost, I mean, apart from the slaves, it's almost fucking socialist. If you are born an Emirati, you get $1,500 a week. Oh no, it's more. It's more than that. Sorry, you get £1,450 a week. So that's more in dollars. It's gonna be 1,700 or something a month. Sorry, for just existing, just being an Emirati. If you got a job and you got a bachelor's degree, you get 7,000 dinars a month from the government.
Because they're just selling natural resources, which they own.
Income. Subsidized fuel. The long-term job security, that they've also got free education from kindergarten all the way through university, and citizens receive free healthcare at the point of delivery, point of service, whatever they call it.
Do they?
Yeah.
How do they manage that when they only spend 50,000?
They're so fucking rich. I don't know. And there's so few Emiratis. There's something like 5% of the population are actually native born.
Yeah, it must be that there's hardly anyone who actually qualifies for those things.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's it. And they do the same in Qatar. They do the same in Kuwait. If you're a Kuwaiti citizen, you get each month you get £1,000 off the government. Thanks for doing nothing. Well, you have to have a job.
They did a thing like that in Alaska, didn't they? When Americans were trying to encourage people to go to Alaska, just give them money.
Yeah. Universal basic income. You
go,
have in these
go
countries.
And be a polar bear.
Yeah. Yes. But yeah, but just crazy days. Did Phil just demonetize the stream by cutting country short there? I don't know. It is all on the backs of oil and slaves. Yeah, but so's the United Kingdom. I mean, the reason why this is one of the richest countries in the world is because of all the naughty things we did in the past.
Well, exactly. Well, you just take things. I mean, at the end of the day, people who have most took it.
Yeah.
Property is theft and all the rest of it.
It is. Oh, Phil, you sound like a socialist.
Well, but I mean, at the end of the day, though, we also need society. But
don't you love that? Like, this was the big thing in New York. It was like, you can't vote for him. He's a socialist. He's a communist. And it just didn't.
He's not a communist.
It didn't stick. It just didn't. Yeah, but even if he was a communist, people are like, well, you know what? We tried unfettered capitalism, and it's not got us very far. So how about we try something else?
Well, as I say, it's not even that. Like the individual policies, I don't even know. I've not seen detailed polling on which ones did well and so on. It's just the fact he targeted the cost of living.
Yeah.
Like literally anyone now is going to win. Whoever is the best at persuading people that they're going to address the cost of living is going to win. That's just the reality in lots of countries now.
Yeah. But yeah, one of the things I was going to say about the big win in New York is I'm hoping Labour are taking notes, but it does show that you don't need to have, you can have some firebrands, you can have some people who are on the hard left in the party, as long as they're not necessarily undermining the party's brand. Or just backbiting too much.
I would just say, you've got like there's various things to say on Mamdani. First of all, he was very good. He came across very well.
Excellent.
He addressed the cost of living. He had a positive campaign.
Yeah.
Right. All of these things are really good. And he had a shit opponent.
He had two shit opponents.
Well,
he
did
split the votes for the shit opponent.
But they didn't, because he got more than both of them put together. So that was fine. The vote splitting was not here or there, because he got more votes than both of them combined.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, his main one, Cuomo, so much baggage. It's like, who would have, like, why would you get someone who's like clean living to at least oppose him?
Yeah.
So there was people are trying. Oh, it was because of this thing or that thing. It was because he came across well in debates. He deliberately went to people who might have been a bit distant with him. He actually engaged with. He didn't just surround himself with his own supporters. He went to other communities in New York City and said, "Let me talk to you. Let me explain these things." So he ran. He went out there. He came across very well. He's very intelligent. Although he's quite young. I mean, his mum's very political, so he's had a lot of experience in politics. And he had a very positive campaign. It was focused on the cost of living, and he had a shit opponent. So those are the real things. It's not about any individual thing, any individual policy, I suspect. It's just because he ran a positive campaign. He was personally he came across very well.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It's a shame he can't be president, can he? Because he was born in Uganda.
He wouldn't become president.
No, he can't. He can't.
I know he can't, but he couldn't. He wouldn't anyway, realistically. America's too bigoted. I actually think
Obama won twice.
Obama was, again, he was like the proper trifactor. He was incredibly charismatic. He was seen as the outsider, right? Which Mamdani could have that, but he also ran a revolutionary fundraising campaign. That he really tapped into social media in a way that others hadn't. So the quality of his campaign was very, very high as well.
Yeah,
you would need that side of it as well. And also I just think at the moment, like even people mentioning various like female candidates, I would just say at this point, can you just get a straight white bloke? Just not take any chances. You don't even know to what extent the elections will be remotely fair, or even if they are and you can win.
Yeah,
what the transition will be like, because Trump is going to fight. So can we just not? I worry. It's not conclusive, of course, but you think about it. Trump has fought 3 elections. He's won 2 of them. The 2 he won were against female candidates, and the one he lost was against a straight white bloke, right? So do you know what I'm saying? I would just say to America, just don't take any chances. I'm a bit worried that too many Americans are a bit too bigoted. I just think they want.
I think, right, and I might be naive in thinking this, but I do think that Kamala would have had a chance if they'd had fucking primaries, if they'd done it properly, if Biden had stepped aside and she had won the primary. I mean, she might not have won the primary, but she had done that. Whoever won the primary could have beaten Trump.
I still think so. The campaign was bad and it was far too late, but I still think they would have had a much better chance with Newsom. Again, it's not about whether she can win or not, or whether it's possible. It's about who gives you your best chance. I think too many Americans aren't progressive enough. And I just think, why risk it, given, like, it could be that America's already screwed.
Yes, I think.
But if it's not, it definitely will be if they let MAGA win again. I would just say, don't take any chances.
Someone's saying, Cymru is saying, that's a bit rich with the amount of English reform voting bigots now. I mean, not saying that we're fucking perfect, Jesus Christ.
No, we're not.
One of the things we say on this channel is we can't rejoin the EU until enough dickheads die that we can actually, prove that we're not going to just turn around 5 years hence and say, oh, we changed our mind again. Exactly. We're leaving. and caused all that upset and uproar and cost.
Okay.
The cost to the EU countries of us leaving was not insignificant. Let's just put it that way. You think about all the visa processing facilities that have to be put up, and all of the the stuff, the checks, the photosanitary checks that were supposed to be happening in Calais. So the French built facilities which never got used, and they're like, well, we paid for them. We didn't pay for them. Anyway, we've got about 10 minutes left 8 minutes left to drop in another few super chats if anyone wants some confetti, and it's any number, so you don't need to worry about how much you put in. But if anyone wants to see some confetti, that'd be good. Nick says, what Mandani shows is that Starmer doesn't need to keep up the Farage Light Act. Mind you, Polanski's already claimed the British version. The British version of Mamdani.
Is he? How?
I wouldn't go that far. But I do think that within political circles, Polanski has captured people's imagination. Well, I don't know
because
how
he's
much,
decided to engage.
Yeah, I don't know how much in the wider world he's really making an impact. The people who don't give a shit about politics, except when once every 5 years they come to vote and they're like, "Who should I vote for?" Oh, I'll vote for this person's name I recognise. But yeah, I know for a fact that a lot of Labour MPs are really shitting one at the moment about winning the next election for themselves, like whether their job is on the line or not. And it's not because of the Greens, it's because of reform, especially up here in the north. And so I can see why they're sort of pivoting to have a go at reform rather than having a go at the Tories at the moment.
But Tories are not challenging them anywhere, really.
David Faulkner, thank you very much for the 78 Hong Kongian dollars. Thank you. Hopefully Mandami won't be another Ken Livingstone in socialist in name only, while cooking for the core. Although Mayor and New York does have more power than the Mayor of London. Well, Ken Livingstone did a few good things for London. The Boris Spikes were actually Ken Livingstone. And it was Ken Livingstone who put his foot down in the 1980s. This is before he became a mad racist and whatever. But in the 1980s, it was him that when Thatcher was trying to deregulate all the buses around the country, said, fuck off, you're not doing this here. And that's why London's got the best transport system in the country, arguably the world. And the rest of us have to deal with fucking Sunday services.
Yeah. He was absolutely fine as Mayor of London in terms of his administrative abilities.
Yeah. Phonebox Chicken is saying Obama beating Trump would be hilarious. That would be hilarious. Imagine if they changed the rules so Trump could run again and Obama. So it's okay then.
Well, in actual fact, yes, that could actually backfire.
But yeah, bring back Bill Clinton. Said nobody ever. Question about Santi. Only about 1 in 10 people in the UAE are Emirati, about the same percentage as our landlords in the UK. There you go. And Vendetta just says, Ken, Kate Bush. Did she write a song called Ken? What? And Pete's going to bed. Good night, Pete. Labour needs to start improving things rapidly, otherwise there will be a one-term government.
They don't have to improve them rapidly. They have to improve them by the next election.
Yes, which they're not doing at the moment. But we just had a massive £20 super chat in from Ivan. Thank you. That's halfway to a mega chat almost. As a Labour Party member, the government are not thinking about the everyday person, and we are sick of hearing speculation. The government may love the speculation, but everyday people don't. That must be remembered.
This is how they're trying to get the impression of everyday people, by leaking it, rather than just announcing it. Because once you've announced it, you're committed.
Like the winter fuel allowance last year.
Yeah, exactly. They stuck with that for a long arse time, a lot longer than that needed to have been checked out in advance.
Yeah.
And then they'd have found out, maybe this isn't the best idea.
Yeah. Sfax says that's also the reason, total opposition to Maggie, why London didn't have the assembly until New Labour. Yeah, well, they wound up the GLC, didn't they?
Yeah.
Thatcher didn't like it. Gallifreyan Ren, Labour cannot count on my vote until they start undoing the culture war damage. Yeah, I understand, completely understand your opinion on that, because they've dipped their toes into culture wars, and they got, I thought there was a nice warm bath. It turned out to be molten fucking lava. So yeah, don't go there. And also, I think Mandami in New York just proved, as anyone can, like that people don't care about the culture wars. They care about the cost of living. They care about how much it costs to feed their children.
No, people are getting sucked into the culture wars.
What do you think that's going to be a huge thing in the next election? If people,
it's not that Labour need to lean into it, but of course it's going to be a huge thing. It's completely colouring everyone's views. Okay. I saw something even worse. You know, we were talking before about how even like in terms of welfare, how even a majority of Labour voters want the government to reduce welfare. Yeah. Right. So I'm going to tell you something in a minute. But first, this is why Labour, like Rachel Reeves, is convinced she has to reduce welfare payments somewhere.
Yeah.
Because it's like, think about it this way from a point of view of a person, right? An average person. She's putting up taxes. It's very likely she's putting up income tax, right? Even though she's going to reduce the employee's national insurance, which of course will only help, or it might be just national insurance, or whatever it is, she's going to reduce to compensate. But that will benefit those workers, right? Those low to middle income workers, but not anyone else. So the other people who are going to be paying more are going to be thinking, right, this is what Labour have to avoid. They have to avoid Labour thinking, you're charging me more to pay for scroungers on benefits, right? Now, there's been some later polling, right? So, you know, after that question time last week where that poor woman tried to explain about, you know, mental disabilities, or in her case, anxiety, right? And she was absolutely panned by the right wing on social media. So a statement was put to people.
Yeah.
Right. And it is not just, do you think welfare payments are too generous, but specifically, do you think that the fact that they're too generous is harmful to the people in receipt of them? In other words, the people in receipt of them will be better off if you reduce them, right? How much of the population, what percentage of the population do you think agrees with the fact that the welfare payments are not just too generous and therefore they're paying for it and they don't like it, they resent it, but actually the people in receipt of it would be better off if they didn't have them? Yeah. What percentage?
10.
75.
Wow.
That's the reality of it. And the polling showed you that the tracker of it, it's a huge spike up over the last year. And this is the thing, this is the ease with which social media and the media, right-wing controlled, just gives people. So you imagine it's 75% of the population, and that's how they justify it. So they're not, in their minds, they're not being selfish, right? They just think, oh, but those people would actually be better. They think it's like velvet handcuffs, even when, because they don't know a lot of these welfare payments are actually they're not. In fact, the vast majority of welfare, the budget isn't spent on out of work payments. They're spent, they're spent either on, well, sometimes it's literally in work. If people working have universal credit, but that PIP is whether you're working or not. But nonetheless, people have been told, oh, but it's making life too comfortable. If they didn't have it, it'd give them that impetus to get a job and that'd be better for everyone, including them, right? And 75% of people think that.
Wow.
And that's a huge jump up as well. That is why that's why Labour are going to have to somewhere find some way to cut it so that they cannot have the Tory press saying they're charging you higher taxes to pay for people sat on their arse. Because otherwise that's what's going to happen. And that's the political reality of it.
Yeah.
They're going to have to find. They tried it with PIP and Labour. And that's why as well. That's why they thought they needed to do it. It's not strictly speaking to save the money, although they also needed the money. It was so that they don't have to put up taxes and have those people think they're paying higher taxes when they're struggling for people who are having it easy. And that's just the political reality of it.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got a message, a super chat from Chris C. £2 super chat. Thank you. 58% welfare bill goes on the state pension.
Yeah. Even that, as I say, there's a good chunk of it on universal credit goes on people in work.
Yeah,
it's there to subsidise low wages. You've got PIP, obviously we've already discussed. Things like child benefit.
Yeah,
child benefit's not paid it's in or out of work, right? So there's lots that I wonder how easy it is for me to find if I could spend the time working out how much of the welfare bill is actually genuine. It'd be very difficult, I think. The government could do it. The government could do it, but I think it'd be quite difficult for me to find the data because some of it is like for people in work and out of work, and therefore it's difficult to know the proportion. But the proportion of the welfare budget that is spent on people who are actually not productive or not in work, that are unemployed, should we say unemployed, just to be clear, because retired people can be out of work as well, but they're not unemployed. Yeah. So spent on people specifically because they're unemployed is actually a small percentage, relatively speaking. It's a minority of the spending.
Big shout out to John for the 2 super chats there, but unfortunately they came in too late. I'm sorry, we didn't get the confetti, but thank you, John, for the con and the fefe super chats there. Next time. So big shout out to John and to Chris there for trying to get in under the radar, but we didn't quite do it this time, but we'll do it tonight. In fact, if I do this very quickly, because I know Phil probably has things to do today. Have you got another video to make, Phil?
To record?
Yeah.
I've written them all.
Ooh, have you got another one to record?
Well, I'm going to London tomorrow, so I have to sort of make sure my Saturday ones are done as well.
Okay, all right. Well, we won't keep Phil much longer, but if we get one more super chat, it will trigger the confetti. So if anyone wants to throw that in while we're wrapping up, that would be awesome. We won't keep Phil any longer. So tomorrow you're going to be doing your live show at 7:00. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So anyone can watch, but only members can comment. Yeah. Is it still that situation? So go and check out Phil's channel at A Different Bias here on YouTube, and subscribe and possibly join and become a member, which is always cool. I'm going to be back at 9:30 tonight for the Friday night social. Phil's got to be. What are you up to tonight? Are you playing video games?
I can't remember.
Sorting out your miniatures.
No, I've got things to do.
Oh no.
I've actually got some bits and pieces to do.
I hate having things to do. So thank you for everyone for watching. Thank you for all the lovely messages, and thanks for the super chats. I really appreciate them. Keep the channel going. And if we could just ask one thing before everyone leaves. Just give us a like. Just quickly press on the thing that gets rid of the chat for a moment and just press like and then go back to the chat if that's what you want to. And Ivan, thank you very much for the confetti. Woo! Ivan says, "Here you go," and we get confetti. So there you go. Good way to end the show. I'll see you at 9:30 tonight. And until then, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.